Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so very much. Today we're doing my next installment in my Palette Roulette series. I believe this is episode 102, and in this video we're going over the Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette. For those of you who are unfamiliar, my Palette Roulette series is a video in which I let an app choose a palette that I utilize throughout the week, and then I come back to you every week, talk to you about my findings with the palette, or my experiences, I guess, with the palette, talk to you about the shade, show you some live swatches, show you some pictures of the looks I was able to create with the palette, and then we pull a new palette using an app that I downloaded on my Android phone. So again, today's palette is the Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette. This is how it came to me. I did get this guy in an Ipsy. This is how it came to me, this beautiful ocean blue, shiny, bright, and beautiful cover to the palette. The palette does slide out of it, and I will show you that in a second. The back of the sleeve does have all the information on the palette that you could want. It also has like kind of the color story of what's inside. And then you pull the palette out of the sleeve, and this is what the palette looks like. It is, again, that really pretty like ocean blue theme. This looks very much like a tapestry on the front of it, and I think that that is the intent, is that it be inspired by a tapestry. The font on the front of it is this beautiful rustic font with this like coppery, like metallic feel to it. And then on the back of the palette, it just has the blurb on it about Dominique Cosmetics, where you can find it, and its shelf life, which is 12 months after you open it. Y'all know, if you're familiar with my channel, I don't necessarily follow along with that whole guidance when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. This lash is trying to fall off right now, so we're gonna hope we make it through this video. So the front of the palette is super beautiful, and when you open the palette up, you do have a good sized mirror. I'm not necessarily certain that I love die cut mirrors. I know that there is a mirror behind here without this die cut on it, but I can appreciate the artistic detail to it. And then this is what the palette looks like. You guys can see it's pretty cool toned. There are some warm tone shades in here, but for the most part it is a cool tone palette, which typically are not my cup of tea, right? We all know this. So this palette does have a 4.2 star rating on Sephora with 61 reviews, a 4.5 star rating on Ipsy, which I went to because that's where I received the palette from. And Ipsy does have 2,601 reviews on this palette. Again, 4.5 stars. The Dominique Cosmetics website has it at 4.9 stars with 16 reviews. I definitely don't think this is a 4.9 star palette. Also, I'm really kind of terrified, this being my first experience with Dominique Cosmetics, that I have 2 more Dominique Cosmetics palettes sitting in my palette collection because I'm not certain about them. We'll get there. This is a $44 palette. It does have 0.63 ounces of product in it, which means that each one of these giant pans are only 0.05 ounces. So these pans have to be so shallow, because these ColourPop singles, granted this one's almost gone, but these ColourPop singles are also 0.5 ounces of product. When you look at it next to one of these Dominique Cosmetics pans, like, these look huge compared to this, but they're not. There's the same amount of product in each one of those pans as there is in this little tiny guy. So it makes me curious as to how long you can use this palette before you actually hit pan in this palette. In addition to the fact that these shadows are so dusty in the pan. There's so much kickback in the pans of this palette. And it's funny because that's not a deal breaker for me. It never has been. It never will be. I think that sometimes the more kickback that a shadow has in the pan, the better off I am, the better it performs on me. Most of the time, it's not a deal breaker for me, but it's a deal breaker for so many people out there. It's just astounding to me. I also think that $44 is kind of a crazy amount of money for the net weight of this. For 0.63 ounces, for each one of these pans to be 0.05 ounces, this could have been such a much smaller palette. But then you would look at it and go, oh, that's not worth $44, which is why I think these pans are so big and so spread out. So that's my little conspiracy theory here. There are 12 shades in here. They are mostly neutral in nature, mostly cool toned, but also there are some warm. It is a cruelty-free palette, and this was a 2019 limited edition. You cannot pick it up on the Dominique Cosmetics website anymore, but you can still pick it up on Sephora, so I do know that it's for sale still mainstream. This was inspired by a Bohemian, free spirit, wanderer kind of like nature, which is why it's called Rustic Glam. And the front of the palette was indeed inspired by a tapestry. And I don't know if you guys can see it real well. It does have a beautiful, like, doily-esque, like almost circle blanket on there, and then some really great detail in the design of the palette. There are 7 mattes in here and what they call 5 shimmers, but of those 5 shimmers, 2 of them are mattes with glitter in them. So I would say that 3 of them definitely perform like a shimmer, and the other 2 are mattes with shimmer in them. They are super soft. All of them are super soft and buttery, blend very well, have great pigmentation, but they're definitely a buildable type shadow. So easier to work with if you are newer or are afraid to go right in with, say, this blue. Like, it's a buildable color. I do have that blue in my cut crease today, and then this blue is above it, blending it out. They just play super well with each other. All of them actually just play super well with each other. And if you're interested in this look, it will be coming to you in a palette bingo in a couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that. I did record it. Yay! They perform best over a primer. I did put them on an unprimed eye. You guys will see in some of the pictures that I post in here, there's one picture of just one eye and nothing else, just the eye, and it's because I did put that on in the middle of also doing other things, and that was an unprimed eye. It did perform well, but I would say that these perform best on a primed eye because you're going to get the longevity out of them that you want. But it didn't crease, and it didn't last that much less time than it did on a primed eye. So, and it didn't blend any differently on an unprimed eye than it did on a primed eye. I think that they just last longer on a primed eye, so that's where I get their performance is better on an eye that is primed. There was a ton of kickback, like I said, in the pan, and because of that, you're almost assured that you're also going to have a ton of fallout. There were specific shades that it was worse with. This blue being one of them, this shade here also being one of them. Those are the more vibrant, darker shades in the palette. I got a lot of fallout out of this green. It was kind of funny because as I'm looking through the reviews after I've made all my notes, which my notes look like this after I've looked at all of the reviews, one of the things that I was noting on there is it was so polarized. People were either saying there was a ton of kick up and a ton of fallout, or people were saying this is the best palette in the world, no kick up, no fallout, no patchiness, no nothing. I can tell you I had some patchiness. I had a ton of fallout, and I had more kick up in the pan than I would like to see, especially knowing that each one of these giant pans is only 0.05 ounces. So as I dipped into them, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hit pan already going first into this palette. One thing that I do like about this palette is that the pans are as big as they are, because you can dip, like you can use this as a blush. It is a really beautiful blush, because even though it looks like super bubblegum pink to you guys, and I might describe it also as a bubblegum pink, it's very muted in tone once it's on your skin. This shade is also a beautiful like warm orange brown that could be used probably as a bronzer. I didn't use it as a bronzer. This one is a nice cool toned like taupe shade that maybe could be used as a contour for many people. I do love that the pans are big enough that you can also stick a different size brush into them, not just an eye brush. I love it when you are able to double duty beauty your beauty items, because it makes it more relevant in your collection. Again, the wear time on these was really good with a primer. I found that they lasted roughly around 10 hours before I started to see some fading or took off my makeup. I didn't get much past that 10-hour mark though, so I don't know that they could last much longer than that. But I did note that there were several of the shades that performed better, and the shimmers were not any of those shades. While I say that, there wasn't any creasing per se. There was just a lot of like maybe glitter movement, or like it started to look faded, but I could still see the glitter from the shimmers on my eye. It was just like maybe moving around my eye instead of in the specific spot I put it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do some swatches. I'm going to go first row and then last row. We'll start from this side and go first row, and then this side and go last row. Okay, so these are the first four here. We do have Fringe, which is non-existent on it's obviously my skin tone. I did use this a lot for laying down in my crease to start off my crease work if I laid down a shade there first. I also use this a lot to blend out because it is my skin tone. You can't see it because it's the same shade as my paper skin. Well, my paper skin on the palm of my hand. My face is obviously darker than the palm of my hand. The next one we have is this one. It is called Evil Eye. It is a matte, like cool tone ocean blue shade. It is the deeper blue in my eye look today. We have this one, which is called Free Spirit. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it just fell out all over my desk. This is just a matte cream color. This was a great brow bone shade, also inner corner. It was just light enough that it worked for both. And then this one, I'm going to get some more. My pinky swatches are never good. This one is called Cactus. It is a matte, like sage green shade. And this was, I feel, by far the worst one in the palette. I wanted so much from this shade because you guys know I'm into greens lately, but you know, on my eyes, green is my favorite color. I love that shade of green in particular. I think sage green is a beautiful green color. That one was super patchy. There is one look that I did that took me forever to do because it's mostly that sage green color and it was just so patchy. The last two in the top row are these two, and we do have this blue here, which is called Dreamcatcher, and it's a baby blue matte with blue glitter in it. If you use this with a fluffy brush, that blue glitter just goes all over your face and it doesn't really show up in an eye look. But if you use a packer brush to pack it down, there is one eye look I did where it's all over my lid and I used a packer brush to pack it down. That shimmer does show up, but it's very apparent that it's glitter and a matte base, not a shimmer formula for that shadow. I'll get close in just 1 second. You'll be able to see it. And then that one there is called Wildflower. You guys, it is falling out all over my desk. That one there is called Wildflower. It is a matte baby pink. Those are what those ones look like. And you guys can see the shimmer in that baby blue. It is really pretty if you can get it to work in your eye look. It is such a gorgeous, gorgeous shade and could look very shimmery depending on how much of that glitter you can get to stay in your eye look. But hopefully you can also see the patchiness of that like sagey mossy green down there, because I really wanted that color to work. That sage green there and that blue there, they do stain quite a bit. You guys can see the staining on my fingers from those two shades. Even when you have a primed eye, it does go on, and it just kind of, well, you guys are going to get to see it in just 1 second actually, because it doesn't want to come off my hand. It doesn't, the blue doesn't, and this one is the green over here. It doesn't want to come off my hand. So I'm going to scrub. Okay, these are the first 4 in the next row. The first one we have here is Suede, and it is a matte orange brown. And this color is actually on my lower lash line today. It's a beautiful brown color. This is the deepest shade in the palette that is a matte. It is a beautiful brown, and I think that it is probably my favorite shade in the palette besides the orange, which we'll get to in a second, just because it is so consistent. I didn't have any problems using this shade at all when I was utilizing this palette. The next one is this one here, and it is called Bohemian. It is a shimmer copper. It is what is on the inner portion of my lids today, and I love this shimmer. It is so, so pretty. It performs so well. You can't, like, it just goes on so wet-like. It is just so, so pretty. And then we have this one, which is Desert Queen. It is a matte orange, like creamsicle, kind of like a muted orange shade, almost like a tan orange or like a muted terracotta kind of. It is such a pretty shade with that brown and that copper. I mean, you guys can see that would make a gorgeous eye look. And then we have this one here, which is called Wanderlust, and it is a shimmer like champagne-y green. I did love this color. I did love this color, but the eye look that I used it in was with that Wanderlust sage green color, and that color destroyed me with that eye look. I just worked so hard to get that shade to work for me, and it just continued to be patchy. I did like that eye look when I was done with it. I did like it. I had no problem with it, but working with it was not my favorite time. All right. These are the last 2 shades. The blue one is called Moonchild, and it's actually a black matte with a blue glitter in it. And again, if you use this with a fluffy brush, it doesn't, the glitter just kind of goes all over the place. It's like glitter spooge all over you. And then this one, so I'm gonna say the name of it one time and one time only. And then we're just going to call it the purple shade. It is called Gypsy. And I know that there was some controversy built around this palette when it first came out because of that shade and that shade's name. And as far as I can tell, I didn't find any reason to believe that it had ever been addressed. And it's certainly not changed in the palette. So I know, like, in this day and age when there is, you know, some kind of slur used or some kind of derogatory mention of any kind of, I mean, when we think about it, like ColourPop was just in, you know, heaps of trouble because of one of the palettes that they had come out named derogatorily towards some of the people on our planet. And I know that there's Shanexo, I believe, just came out with a palette called a name that a lot of us Americans are taking offensively. So when we have a palette with that shade in it and it's called a certain name and there is like a derogatory connotation to it and nothing is addressed about it, it kind of gives me kind of like the side eye to the brand, like, where are you at? Why aren't you handling this? But it is a pretty shade. I really feel like that purple shade performs more like a fuchsia or a lavender with a purple kick than it does like a purple, because it is really, really, really light based when you put it on your eye. It is on the outer portions of my eyelid today, and it just looks like a lavender. It is a very pretty shade, especially with that pink. I do like it with that wallflower pink. I think it turned out beautifully with that shade. It just kind of melts into it just so perfectly. But I also think it looks really good in this eye look today. Although these are not colors I would typically choose to throw together, I don't think. I do think that this eye look turned out okay. With this brand, this is the brand that was introduced to us by Christen Dominique. She is a YouTuber here on the platform. She's a co-founder of Dominique Cosmetics, but it is the name, she is the namesake of the brand, right? As I said, there was a ton of backlash when this palette came out because of the name of that purple shade. I haven't seen it in any fashion having been addressed at all. I just know that it was all over a Reddit thread that she sucked as a person, as a business owner, for naming one of her shades that. I do like this palette. It's not my favorite though, and I am a little scared for the other palettes in my collection that are Dominique Cosmetics palettes because the shimmers weren't fantastic. I did like the copper one. I did think the copper one was beautiful, but the other two shimmers in this palette, which would have been that like champagne mossy green one and the purple one, I didn't think were spectacular. They're not super vibrant and in your face as far as, you know, beautiful sparkliness. And I hate mattes with glitter in them. I think that they are the most useless on the planet as far as, you know, shades that go or formulas that go into a palette, because once you put that onto your eye, the glitter is gone. I mean, just case in point, this lighter blue up top is that blue with the blue sparkle in it, and you can't even tell that that is a shimmer because it's not. It's a matte with glitter in it, and if you use a big fluffy brush, all the glitter goes everywhere all over your face instead of where you want it to be, which is on your eye. I knew using a big fluffy brush was going to make that sparkle not show up in this eye look, so there was a purpose behind it for me, because I didn't want to put that blue on my brow bone area or my upper crease area and have like a ton of sparkle. But that's just it. If you're gonna have mattes with glitter in them, either make them a matte or make them an actual shimmer, because it doesn't make any sense to have it be a matte with shimmer in it, a matte with glitter in it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe there are people out there on the planet that like them. I know that there's a market for people that like the glitter pans and palettes, so maybe there's a market for people that like mattes with glitter in them. I'm sure that there is. Makeup is subjective, but I think that they're dumb. So I'm interested to see also, with the amount of kickback in the pans of these shadows, how long these shadow pans last before I hit pan in them. This might be an easy pan that palette kind of palette, right? Because you're gonna hit pan in these pans super, super quickly, especially if you're using them for things like bronzer and blush as well. So there's that. I think that it's a decent palette. It's not my favorite palette. Again, it's cool tone. I don't typically like cool tones, but my favorite shades in this palette didn't perform. My favorite shade in this palette, the green one, didn't perform as well as I wanted it to, which might be why I'm kind of salty on the palette. My daughter, my oldest daughter, thinks this palette is gorgeous. So I am gonna sit on it for a little bit. We're gonna try and figure out if this is a palette that I really do want to keep when it comes to my declutters. Who knows? Maybe it'll go into a declutter and maybe my daughter will get it. Nobody knows. For those of you that don't know, I do use the Decide Now app that I pulled from the Play Store I do have a Samsung Note 9. It is an Android operating system, but all operating systems have something in this kind of manner for you to use as a decision app. I just put all of my palettes into this wheel. As I haul new palettes in with you guys, I do put them into this wheel. And as we use them through the palette roulette or I declutter them, I do take them out. So in order to pull a new palette, we just spin the wheel and it spins for us a new palette. So we're going to do that now by just pushing this button right here in the center. We have Colored Rain Vineyard Soiree. I believe this is a pretty cool toned purple palette. It's a mini. Let me go pull that palette. I'll be right back. Okay. This is the Colored Rain Vineyard Soiree palette. And this is what it looks like. There are 6 shadows in here. You guys, I really feel like I need more than 6 shadows. And I could use my single shadows as well, but we have 800 different palettes, so let's pull for another one as well. So I am going to roll for a second palette. And we have the Ciate Astrolights. This is another small palette, so we lucked out. I'm going to go get that one as well. All right. I do think that these are going to pair well. So I do have the Ciate Astrolights. This is a little tiny palette, and I do have the Colored Rain Soiree, Vineyard Soiree palette. Those are the 2 that were chosen. This is the 2 of them together. They do look very similar, although I do think one of them is more cool tone and one of them is more warm tone. So I do think that these are going to be pretty spectacular together. Let me know what you guys think, but I think that I can do this. I think that this is going to be pretty freaking amazing, honestly. So those are the 2 palettes that I will come to you next week and talk about. Next week's video might go up a little bit late. You guys, I am going to the Seattle area because, so my grandma died right after the pandemic hit, and we haven't been able to have a service for her because of the State of the Union. So her service is scheduled for this coming weekend, and I am going to be there. So you might not see the Palette Roulette video for next week until Wednesday, but note that it will be, you will see it you will see it next week. I am going to put another video up just in case, and I am going to try, I should have a good idea of what my thoughts are on these palettes before we leave on Friday. So I am going to try and record it, at least so that I can edit it and whatnot throughout the weekend while we are gone, but I won't be back until Monday evening. So if you don't see it Monday, note that it will be coming on Wednesday. I hope that you guys are okay with that. I know that you are, because you guys are amazing. With that being said, what are your guys' thoughts on the Dominique Cosmetics formula? I don't know that I am a fan. And as I said, I have 2 more of her palettes down there, so it kind of scares me a little bit to think of them, what I might encounter with them. The other 2 I have in my collection I'm really excited about. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that if you did, you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. It really does help our channels out here. I also hope that you liked it or me enough that you're considering subscribing to my channel before you go. And both of them are free. It's totally free to do. So why not do it? Why not just hit the thumbs up and hit that subscribe button? I don't know. I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to. You guys, I upload content 3 to 4 times a week. If you do hit the subscribe button, please don't forget to hit that notification bell. It is going to make sure that you don't miss anything, and I would feel super, super bad if you missed anything. If you hit that subscribe button and never saw me in your feed, that would be so sad. I would be sad. thank you guys so much again for joining me today. I hope that this finds you and yours well. I hope that you guys are staying safe out there. I hope that when you're out and about that you're masking up, because we're never gonna get out of this if we don't mask up. Also, I hope that you are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, guys, bye.